What's up, everybody? So I just finished reading book number 5 in the Nightmare Room series, Dear Diary, I'm Dead. Now, this was the last book that I needed to read for the Nightmare Room series, and I'll just say that this one really surprised me. I did not expect to enjoy this book as much as I did. This was a really good one. I'll talk a little bit more about what I liked about it once I tell you a little bit what this one is about, give like a brief plot overview. But yeah, this was a really pleasant surprise, and I'm glad to have ended the night. Even though this isn't the last book in the series, it's just the last one that I read. I'm glad to have ended the Nightmare Room on a high note with this one. And I plan on doing my ranking sometime later this week. I might have a ranking video uploaded within the next 2 or 3 days after this. I'm still trying to figure out my ranking a little bit. There's some books kind of in the middle of the ranking, and even some ones higher up on the list that I'm having a hard time deciding which ones I like more. I've given a lot of books in this series like a straight 3 out of 5 and a straight 4 out of 5 star rating. See, I'm still trying to decide kind of how I want to do my ranking. I have like my top and like my bottom few figured out pretty easily, like the order of them. But I'm still trying to kind of figure out some of the other placements on my list. So, but I do plan on having my ranking uploaded sometime within the next few days. Um, so yeah, anyways, Dear Diary, I'm Dead. What is this one about? So our main character named Alex, he obtains this diary that was stashed away in this old desk that his parents got him, and he opens it up and decides he wants to write in it, and he discovers that there's already an entry written in this diary in his own handwriting. And as he reads this diary entry, he figures out that it's, or he kind of comes to the conclusion that it's sort of himself writing this entry from one day in the future. He reads the events of this diary, or of this diary entry, and then the next day, the events or what happens in that entry comes true in his own life. It's sort of like predicting the future, basically. And so he continues to look at this diary every day when he gets home from school, and there are different things that happen. Each entry continues to like predict the future, and from there things start to escalate. First, Alex kind of wants to like take advantage of this, and he uses it to sort of his advantage, and he like makes bets with his friends at school. That's kind of like his whole thing. He likes to make bets for money on certain things, like if his school team is going to win, get a certain amount of points, and he starts taking advantage of it in that regards and starts making a lot of money. But of course, things don't always go as planned, and as things start to escalate with these various diary entries and things that happen to him in his life, things start taking a turn and for the worse. And it's kind of taking on like a be careful what you wish for plot, sort of, or like getting more than you bargained for. And he realizes that this is more bad than it is good for him, this diary. And he does struggle a lot. Our main character struggles a lot with whether or not this diary is good or bad. He does briefly question, like, why is this happening? Like, how can this possibly be? Like, where does this diary come from? That kind of thing. And he does admit to being scared of it, but he's also wants to know what happens. He's just like, he has to figure out what's going to happen tomorrow. He's like addicted to it almost. And this book kind of plays on the commentary a little bit, or it has some commentary on the themes of like fear, paranoia, and addiction a little bit. And I really appreciated that about it. This book reminds me a little bit of Locker 13 from the same series. It has some of the same themes in there about how fear and how it can control us and being addicted to certain things. And there's even a sentence in this book where the main character reflects upon this book, and he thinks about how he hates this book and how it's not good for him, but at the same time he needs it. He feels like he can't live without it. And so yeah, there's just some interesting stuff there in regards to that. And I also like those themes because I feel like it's something that's very relatable. At least I know it is for me in my own life. I feel like that's something that a lot of us as humans struggle with, like fear of the future, and thinking about in terms of like fate and destiny versus like free will and just having to go out and and create our future, I guess, essentially. So it's something that's just kind of a relatable struggle, and I really like that. Of course, it's taking more of a supernatural turn in this book with sort of a cursed object, and I do feel like this book also has that cursed object plot at its core. It feels sort of like it came from Beneath the Sink or Horrors of the Black Ring, one of those cursed object R.L. Stine stories that we've seen a lot. I feel like that's kind of what this is at the core of it. But it has a lot of interesting themes in here, like I said, and it kind of takes some unique turns with this idea. And yeah, things just kind of keep escalating in the story. Things keep getting worse with this diary entry. Pretty soon it's predicting more bad things that happen instead of good things. And pretty soon Alex doesn't even care about making bets anymore, or doesn't, towards the end of it, he doesn't really care about making money or using it to his advantage. He's just trying to worry about just staying alive, and trying to keep bad things from happening really becomes his main concern. So we do see a little bit of growth in his character. And I really like Alex as a main character in this book. I thought he was great. He's got some witty inner monologue. I know I'm kind of going off on different subjects here, but that was another thing I really liked about this book, was the humor in it. It got me to laugh a couple of times. And that's something I always look for, and like give bonus points to a book when it can get me to laugh or chuckle a few times, because they don't always do that. R.L. Stine, of course, loves his humor and always makes jokes in his books, and has the characters banter with and tease each other a lot, that kind of stuff. It doesn't always get me to laugh. Sometimes the humor lands, sometimes it doesn't. This one I really enjoyed the humor in. I really liked Alex's inner monologue, and a lot of the dialogue between him and his parents and his friends. I just thought it was funny. It was just very charming, just kind of cute, you know. So yeah, I like that part of the book as well. And we do see a little bit of growth with Alex as a character, because right away he is really just concerned about taking advantage of this diary. He's excited about having a book that predicts the future, essentially, and like using it to make money and that kind of stuff, in bets or whatever. But later on, we see he's just concerned about protecting himself and his loved ones as bad things start to happen. So yeah, I kind of like his character development. And then also, he has kind of like a frenemy, I guess, in this book. There's this girl in school he kind of has a crush on. They kind of like each other, but not really. It doesn't really go too deep with it, but that's something there that I kind of liked as well. And then her character also has a little bit of an arc where she grows and becomes more friendly with Alex as the story progresses. So yeah, that's just another aspect to it that I really liked. And I won't get into too much what happens like towards the climax of this one. It's hard to talk about it without spoiling anything. But essentially things just keep escalating, and then we get to the climax of the story, sort of. And then the book just kind of ends abruptly. And this is where I'm going to start taking points away from it. So the book it doesn't even really feel like it has a proper ending, if I'm being honest. It feels like it just kind of stops. And that's really the main negative I have with it, is the abrupt ending we get, and then the last chapter of this book, which I think is supposed to serve as sort of the twist ending to this one. And I was scared earlier on when I was reading this, like within the first 30 pages, based on the nature of this story, that it was going to have one of those really stupid twist endings that sort of all for nothing, has like some meta stuff to it. I was really scared of that. We don't exactly get that, but it does have a last chapter that is just, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just there. I think it's supposed to serve as kind of a twist, but it doesn't really work. I'm not even sure what R.L. Stine was trying to imply with that last chapter, to be honest. I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it just feels like it doesn't work. And again, I'm remaining very vague here about it because I don't want to spoil anything. If you read this book, you'll know what I'm talking about. So yeah, the last chapter, I could take it or leave it, honestly. It's nothing too detrimental to the story overall. It didn't ruin my enjoyment of the book, but it didn't provide anything for the story either. It's just there. So yeah, the last chapter is just whatever. And again, the ending was kind of abrupt, and it ended on sort of a sad, tragic note. Not like a bad, like terrible ending, but it has like that sort of like tragic sort of ending to it, where not everything is resolved. It just kind of leaves the main character cliffhanging a little bit. And so yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this book. It has some of those elements in other like R.L. Stine and Goosebumps books that I really enjoy. There's a little bit of like flavors in here from like the Birthday Party of No Return. It came from Beneath the Sink. It also has like some of those kind of, like I was saying earlier, be careful what you wish for vibes to it. But I feel like it's all sort of mashed up in here and done in a more unique way. It kind of takes some of those ideas without borrowing too heavily from them, if that makes sense, and creating more of a unique idea with those like tropes and different things. And it just fit my tastes perfectly, honestly. Everything about this book, or almost everything about it, appealed to me. I really enjoyed this one. I will admit it's nothing too crazy or outlandish. There's definitely some more extreme and more horrific titles in the Nightmare Room series. This one is a little bit on the tamer side in terms of like the violence and the scares and things like that. But just the nature of the story, I really enjoy. It's witty. It's got some nice humor in it. I really liked this cursed object we get of the diary. I liked how it plays into the emotions of the main character and like his paranoia and fear and things like that. I like those themes it has, again, that are kind of relatable. And overall, this one, it just really landed for me. I really enjoyed this one. So yeah, on a 0 to 5 star basis, I think I'm going to give this book a flat 4 out of 5 stars. Really, the last chapter and the abrupt ending kind of hold it back for me a little bit. But overall, this was a really good one that I still recommend. This is definitely, whenever I get around to doing my ranking for this series, I think this will definitely be up there. I'm not exactly sure yet where I'm going to place this one, but I think it will probably be at least in the top 5, maybe top 4 even of my ranking. We'll see. But yeah, this was a good book. Have you read this one in the series? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And I will see you guys next time for my Nightmare Room ranking. Peace.